All right, welcome back to Nerd Bytes Infinity Bottle Redux. I'm Justin.
And I'm John.
And we're joined by our guest.
I'm Brian.
That was super awkward intro. This is going to be a fun episode, though. So if you recall, a few episodes ago, we created Infinity Bottle. So, Lambert, you want to break down kind of what we did?
Yeah, so Brian was kind enough to bring in a lot of samples for us to try. So we spent some time off camera trying all those, kind of figuring out, like, based on the flavor profiles of who we were building these for, we'll get into that too, kind of determining, well, what do we think works best for this one, and this one, and we kind of figured all that out off camera, and then we went on camera, and then we started adding to it, and they've been marinating for a month now, and now we're gonna try them. We're gonna see what we think. And we're going to see what do we need. We're going to kind of decide what do we need to do to this to make it a little bit better. Or maybe we don't do anything to it and it's perfect. But I seriously doubt that's the case.
It's not full.
I was going to say, that's
not full.
We're going to have to add to it regardless.
Yeah.
We'll have to add to it regardless.
So we're actually going to start with Infinity Bottle number 1. This is the one that Lambert built. But this is actually for our producer, our editor, our behind-the-scenes extraordinaire, the proprietor of Danny Boy Productions, other Justin. He's over there behind the screen. So he's going to get a chance to take this one home with him, and hopefully we can make some pretty cool improvements.
Absolutely.
If we ever finish.
So I'm going to give a real quick breakdown while these two are tasting, and just to remind everybody what we put into it. And I got this fancy little app. This fancy little app is called, it's just called Infinity Bottle. Build your own Infinity Bottle. So we started with a base of 8 ounces of wild turkey. We added about 3/4 of an ounce of Whistle Pig 10. We added 1.5 ounces of Jack Daniel's, a rye. We added 1 ounce of Cedar Ridge, 1 ounce of Town Branch, 1.5 ounces of a Rebel, 1.5 ounces of Backbone, and then we had a mystery maple that I just put on there as mystery maple.
Yeah, we don't know what.
Because I don't have it. And I don't even know if it just tasted like maple. So do
we even know the proof of that one?
No, I just put 90. I don't even know what it is. So this has been sitting. All 3 of these have been sitting. This one's been sitting for roughly a month. We did this on October 2nd, and the proof currently is supposed to be 102.9. So let's start with Brian. What are some initial thoughts about this Infinity Bottle?
Certainly, I think the rye is shining through. If I'm not mistaken, we had talked about kind of going for a Scotch-like thing.
Yes.
And there's also a malty quality that's coming through here, which I particularly enjoy. It's a little hot on the palate to me right now, but that was when I tasted it full proof.
No, you just put some water in it. Yep.
Just added a little water.
I'm actually going to do the same.
There's a real floral component coming out here with the addition of water, like rose petal or something like that, which is very strange to me. You're welcome to.
But yeah, it does have that oak taste to it too, as well. Like it's got the Scotch component to it that I think we were going for. Yep. Because, like I said, our illustrious companion behind the scenes, he likes the Scotch. He liked a Scotch.
Yeah, but there's a cinnamon. There's all of those Christmas spices, the baking spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, mace, and a cherry and rose petal thing happening.
And the finish is actually quite good.
Yeah.
It is pretty long.
Yeah,
I love this.
We're getting a lot of big nods and smiles. He even said words. He doesn't usually talk.
Yeah, he actually spoke. For those of you listening and watching, he spoke instead of just giving us don't talk about me, don't mention my name.
Don't make eye contact. Would you agree, though, this is bourbon?
Yes.
Or I should say this is whiskey.
This is whiskey.
It's whiskey.
Yeah.
I love it.
So,
good job.
Having said that, I think we did a pretty good little concoction here.
I think we did too.
What do we think we should be adding to this? That's a really heated question. No pun intended.
So maybe, because you were going on and on about the floral and the spices. Do we need to add a little bit of sweet to balance it out?
I don't think necessarily.
You don't
so.
have to, but you could.
I mean, if that's the flavor profile we're going for, we're good. I was thinking more texturally. Something that would add, like flesh out or fill out the mid palate, more of the oiliness. So like that middle part of the tongue. Because I agree with you, the finish, once it's down, it lasts for a long time. We're tasting the pleasant flavors of this for a good long time. But there's a little bit of, even though it's very full flavored, I wouldn't necessarily say full bodied as far as the textural feeling in the mouth. I think it could fill out in the mouth a little bit. And be a little more satisfying. So something maybe that has definitely got a lot of American oak into it, which tends to leach more of the fusel oils, and look for something there without drastically changing the flavor profile, because I think the flavor profile is pretty spot on certainly for the peanut gallery. So
I'm glad you're here, because I was just going to say we need some higher proof stuff in there. That's all I was going to say.
I don't necessarily know that's the case though, because I mean the finish is still
the finish
good.
is fantastic. I'm really excited.
The flavor profile is good. I mean, Brian, you're talking about like that mouthfeel, like improving that mouthfeel and getting something that just kind of, beefs it up and thickens it up a little bit.
Yeah, to me, it makes it taste expensive, right?
Right.
Yep.
So the question is, what the hell do we put in it to do that? I have some initial thoughts. You were talking about the American oak. I'm thinking maybe some of the makers, maybe like your maker's pick.
Sure, something weeded too. There's some Weller out there. There's that could work. Well, you mentioned maker, so certainly a weeded mash bill there. So
Well, yeah, because I think it's based on
based on 46.
46, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the weeded mash bill. So that's that was the first thought that I had was, I don't know which one, but maybe one of those.
All right. So more full body, more oakiness, but keep it pretty similar to what we're working with.
Don't want to tinker with it too
man,
much.
that finish is fantastic. And the initial taste for the Scotch people of the world, they're going to really like this one.
Scotchers?
The Scotchers.
Sure.
Scotsman.
Up next, we have Infinity Bottle number 2. This is actually going to go home with Brian. He's got this
Eventually.
fancy Jack Daniel's single barrel decanter. Really cool. Let me give you a breakdown of kind of what is in this thing, and then we'll figure out what we need to add to it. So this was a base of the early times, 100 bottled in bond, 8 ounces of that. We also added an ounce of Dickel. We added 1.5 ounces of the Elijah Craig small batch. Almost an ounce, but about 3/4 of an ounce of the Blue Note Juke Joint, just a fun name of a bourbon. Almost an ounce and a half of the Jack Daniel's Rye. Also an ounce of Bone Snapper, which I had to look up. 1.5 ounces of Larceny, and then once again the 1 ounce of the old Mystery Maple.
Love it.
I mean, I love that we
I
can't.
do
We
love the
can
maple.
never recreate this because we don't know what the hell
we
this
don't
is.
know what that is.
Yeah, but boy, that mystery maple comes through here, right
really
on the nose.
It
right?
is a caramel bomb on the
Yeah.
nose. Yeah, it really is.
Which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted something sweet and wheat and smooth, and really looking for something that I can pour for my wife, and she'll go, "Oh, that's really good." And who's not? She's grown into her own. She's probably drunk a lot more whiskey than most people, so just by proxy.
Yeah.
But really looking for something that that we can enjoy together and sit, have a snifter, and then make fun of neighborhood kids as they walk by.
Well, this one has a proof of 99.9. So I'm gonna let you start first, Brian. Like maybe elaborate a little bit more as far as what. Sounds like you think that the nose is great.
Nose
really
is
what you're looking for.
Nose is
Is
fantastic.
there anything that we think we can add to it to make it better,
Yeah.
or even keep it going the direction that it's going?
I think the nose is good. I like the mouthfeel of it. It's rich in the mouth. It feels filling in the mouth. But I feel like it kind of drops off from there. Just kind of stops, and the finish is everything's up front, and it's like it stops halfway on my tongue. So like
That's exactly where
and
it
then-
stopped on mine. Like
Yep.
I'm getting a tingling right on the halfway, and then it's
A
gone.
little tingling.
So I might like
a little tingle.
yeah.
A little tingle.
I might like to add something, maybe some more rye components that would give, or something that certainly more oak would give it a little bit bitterness, which would help carry it to the back of the palate where I'm tasting bitter. So, so maybe something that's higher rye. Certainly something could be higher proof, but I want to preserve what I have up front. So
Yeah,
I don't
because you
wanna,
don't want to mess with that nose and the palate.
Yeah, I
because
don't
then
wanna
I agree. That
detract
is
from-
really good. So it'd have to be something. You'd have to keep that sweetness going. with whatever you add. But yeah, give it a little kick to have it last
Yeah,
a little bit longer.
Needs a little more balance.
I mean, it doesn't need like this one's got a crazy long finish. I don't
Right.
think it needs that,
we
but
should
it
just
needs.
pour those two together. That's probably the right one.
Or we can do that.
I don't think
But it needs a little bit longer because then it kind of entices you to. And we've had lots of where it's almost begging you like now you need more, like just enough of a finish to get you to your next sip.
Yeah.
Well, my app doesn't allow us to add infinity bottles together, so we're not going to be able to do that. But we can add other unique,
That app is
a
bullshit.
little bit higher rye. Right? It's the free version, so
Well,
maybe
we're not paying for it.
no, we can't afford that. Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna maybe add some rye. You said something maybe of an oak, but something to keep the nose and initial taste, but have something that's sticking around for a little longer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something to elongate that finish.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, our third and final infinity bottle. This is in our fancy HMX1 Squadron from our good friend and loyal listener Pascal. This is a decanter that we got for my father, and so this bottle is actually for him. And I gave it to him as a gift for his 70th birthday, and I immediately took it back from him and said, "Here you go. Here's your gift." And now I need to actually use it for our next episode. But to break down what's in this one, we were kind of going for something that's maybe a little kind of what I like, which is something a little bit spicier. And so when we were adding this together, we started with a base of the Weller Special Reserve, and that was because he loves the WSR.
He
And
loves
so
it.
I was like, we'll put that in there because he'll be really into it. 8 ounces of that. We've got 1.5 ounces of the Backbone, half an ounce of the Whistle Pig 10-year, because I love that one.
Because you love that
A
one.
little citrus to it. Yeah. The Lux Row Distillers Collection, 2 2/3 ounces of that. The Old Pepper, add an ounce and a half of that. 3 ounces of the Jack Daniel's Rye. And then lastly, because this is what we do, I added an ounce and a half of the Mystery Maple.
The mystery maple.
Everybody had to get some.
Because we love the Mystery Maple. It's so good.
Let's be honest.
And the proof on this one is the lowest of the three, but pretty close to Brian's, which is a 99.5. So, because I've been talking, I haven't a chance to taste yet. I'm going to go back to Lambo on this one.
It's got the spice.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It's got the spice, especially in the mid palate. It's really got that spice going. So I think if you
After
were
adding water, it smells like a red hot.
see, I haven't smelled it. I just added a little bit of water, but like if you were going for that spice, you got it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of oak on the palate, which is going to bring spice as well. So I think for what you were going for, you've achieved that goal. The next step is just balance. It's playing around the edges, right? As opposed to going 3 ounces of anything. Really, it's got to be. We got a little bits around the edges here. Maybe the front palate could have just a touch of sweetness, but you don't want to go too much. The finish could have maybe a little bit more proof, I guess. But
Yeah.
Now you're talking to the language.
yeah.
You know, I'm in for that. But I was thinking the same thing too. I feel like this is a unique one in that the middle part is great. Like the whole mouthfeel, I think is fantastic. It's got that
Absolutely.
that weedy, spicy kind of flavor we were going for as far as a flavor profile. But it's sticking around a little bit at the end, but not maybe as much as I would want. And the beginning is a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, it needs a little bit. It needs a little bit up front.
Yeah.
Up front and a little bit in back.
And we typically, and I know people like to dish on them or trash the tongue map and all of that stuff, but where do you put the honey whenever you're sticking your finger in it, right? You put it right on the tip.
Right
of the
on
tongue,
the tip,
right?
yep.
And that's where we need to. So we know we can taste sweet right on the tip of our tongue, and that's what I would think. Touch of sweet here would bring balance to the spice, and then help it flow from the very beginning of the tongue all the way to the back and fill out the entire mouth at the same time. So,
Cool. Well, I think that Papa Bill will be very excited to finally get this back to him once we do a little bit of tinkering and adding to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and add some of the things that we've been thinking about and, make these even better. And that's the cool thing about this infinity bottle process is that it's basically like a science experiment, and you just know what you like and you try and add it and make this cool flavor profile, and then you drink it down a little bit and you get to add more.
Yeah, and that's the key. Like when you find something that you really, really enjoy, you stop, and then you enjoy it, and then you get to do it all over again.
yeah. And how now, apothecary?
So from us at Nerds New Cool, really good nerd bites as far as talking about infinity bottles. Until next time,
Bye, everybody.
nerd bites.
Cheers.